Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Slant 3D podcast, the show about 3D printing and our place inside the industry. Today we're going to talk about bike seats and going into your questions from the channel, everything from books to why ethanol and PLA have always been kind of dumb. But before that, let's go ahead and pay the bills. This episode is brought to you by Teleport. Teleport is the only print service out there that can actually integrate with your e-commerce store completely seamlessly so that when you get an order, that part can be printed and shipped directly to your customer for you. And not only is it just some setup by some random guys, you have hundreds of printers available to supply your parts that have produced thousands of parts over years from a 3D printing company that has competed with injection molding. Teleport lets you get your product to market quickly, easily, and without having to build your own factory. You are able to just focus on what makes your business great, which is awesome products and taking care of your customers. So check out Teleport today over at slantpod.com. That's slantpod.com. Hey guys, Gabe from the future here. I know I've filmed podcasts before, but this was news that dropped. Desktop Metal filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, even though they were supposed to be acquired by Nano Dimension, which is kind of still on, but Nano Dimension has them as a separate entity. But it's kind of been a long time coming. Desktop Metal has been in really bad financial shape for the last couple of years, and they've been fighting really hard to get acquired. They didn't get acquired. They just filed for bankruptcy. It is going to be a whole big old mess of who gets what, but Desktop Metal has a very large patent portfolio of all kinds of 3D printing technologies, so Nano Dimension should be receiving all of those, and we will talk about this more next week. Okay, moving into the news. First piece of news is from All3DP. The real winner of the Tour de France? A $400 custom 3D printed saddle. If you look closely at Tadej Pogačar, I apologize, glide across the finish line of the Tour de France yesterday, you might have noticed his custom 3D printed Fisk Vento Argo 00 adaptive saddle. Hoi. Which cost about $400, $399 to be precise, which was without a doubt the reason for his victory. JK. Pogačar was part of the UAE Team Emirates XRG, which began using physics saddles in 2025, specifically using the one-to-one adaptive 3D printed technology from Carbon that is tailored to each rider's body and riding position. It's a custom 3D printed bike seat. Carbon 3D, we've talked about many times. They originally started out as the Fast 3D printing company. They're now a resin 3D printing company that's based down in San Francisco. They are very good at resin, and more recently in the last few years, they have focused really heavily on kind of design for additive, largely through lattice technologies. So they have done a lot of stuff that like Materialize and those kind of guys have done around how to generate lattices from a solid object and do it in a functional sort of way. So in this case, a bike seat, lattices have a tremendous advantage over traditional padding. A lattice has free airflow, so it is far more comfortable. And since you're able to engineer the density and the structure of the lattice throughout the part, you can have one place that is hard, another place that is soft, and so on. So you get really good fit. And this is one of the examples where they have a really high margin category where very custom design is really useful. So they can make the margin on it, and the Fisk seats are able to be made on demand for people. I have no idea how they get the fit data for this. Scanning somebody's rear inside of the... However they do it. Here, take a picture of your backside and send it to us, and we'll get you your custom seat. Yeah, but it's a good business unit. It is prototypey and very kind of traditional 3D printing application, which is high margin, prototypey customization, which is fine, but not very scalable. But to see it out in the wild is really useful. Carbon has done football helmets. They've done, obviously, seats. They've done other sorts of cushioning. They've started doing stuff for wheelchairs. Yeah, their cushioning is really, really valuable. But I don't know if they've sold how valuable it is, because it's not really necessarily eliminating pain. it's a better option, so it's not as clear that it's a really good solution. And this is a problem that 3D printing has in general. Yeah, it's a better solution, but is it better enough to really worry about right now? And that's generally the conversation that the sales team has. That is all the news we have for this week. So I'm just going to dive into company updates. Tangled, our $10 per kg filament there. We're keeping up. We had a small delay last week with one of our extruders, and we have a bigger delay with one of our other extruders that we're working through. But right now, Tangled is keeping up with existing orders. We can expand to more orders. We're going to beef up inventory even more. And we just deployed a new winding system that is going to allow us to run effectively 24/7, much more effectively. So we can basically double production. And that will go into effect in about 2 weeks. Once we get far enough ahead of PLA to where we're comfortable with it and it's cozy, then we will probably start introducing some new stuff. And we've got it all teed up. It's all sitting right there. It's just we haven't had time to release it because everybody else has been busy. But more stuff should be coming to Tangled soon. You should have some glut filament coming loose, so leftover from some of our production jobs. And yeah, going from there. That's Tangled. Nothing else too wild or wacky with Tangled. Teleport. Updates on Teleport. We talked about this a little bit last week, but we've been upgrading packaging, and this was the stuff that I wasn't able to show last week. The new shredder was able to come in, so we have this awesome new packing paper. This is not the final color. This was a demo that I was using the other day. The final color will actually be darker, but this lattice shape is really, really great for cushioning parts and protecting parts, so more delicate parts will be able to go in. Also, if you follow us on Twitter, we've been doing some micro part testing, and we got a little guy holding a sword who is about yay big or so, and we say, we don't recommend this, we don't recommend this. A part inside a Teleport should be under 1 inch, but we have optimized profiles over there so that really small stuff can be printed, but you still shouldn't do it because it's fragile, it breaks in shipping, it's unreliable in production. So simply because you can doesn't mean you should, but we're refining the system and expanding it that way. But yeah, new paper packaging going in, phasing in right now. White boxes becoming more common for smaller stuff. If you're shipping something larger, that goes back into the brown boxes. With Teleport, one of the things that we released here in like the last few weeks or so is we upgraded our feedback form. Rather than having it in the question mark in the support page of Teleport, we just pulled that out and we made a chat box that gives access to resources and immediate chat right there. The response to that has been fantastic. We actually stole kind of that architecture from Stripe of like, just comment, let us know what you think right now, just whatever you're thinking. The feedback from that has been fantastic because people have, since we've been improving Teleport and that kind of stuff, bug reports and everything else and problems and all the rest of it have been declining very quickly. It's very few compared to like when we released V2 and you have the transition of stuff breaking as you deploy new things. But so the feedback is wildly positive for the most part right now. Bad stuff is declining very quickly. So people are mainly using that chat box for feature requests. And good stuff has been coming through. So that has been great. And then help assistance. And we've been working on the Slant pod tutorial site to bring the FAQs and answers to questions kind of more forward. Obviously, if any of you watch the Slant Pod channel, you know that there's been a lot of content about how to use Teleport going by. We're now that we've made a bunch of that and it's stable and the site's not going to change or anything like that, we're starting to aggregate it and combine it together. Like, here's how you onboard and here's this trick and this, that, and the other thing. So all of it's getting better, and the crank of improvement on Teleport is cranking through really well. And better quality parts have been coming through. People have really gotten kind of in the groove of like, oh, this is what should be printed and what shouldn't and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of filtered through all that upfront stuff that we've been going through for the last 6 months as people try out things. But yeah, existing sellers have been ramping. And of course, right here, we're not at the end of summer, but June, July, August are generally like slow season for shopping, but it's starting to come out of that. Generally, you'll see slowdowns in June, July, August. Already, we're seeing an uptick in general sale of people in sales of our users on Teleport. And we've seen new users circling back around and trying it again, all the rest of it. So just moving in a good direction overall over there. That all being said, now that Teleport's done, as done as it will ever be, we'll always push new stuff. We've started moving into new features and new product development. And there is a major update coming to back end of Teleport here in the next 2 weeks. That'll get deployed. We'll probably break some things, but we're doing that deployment very quickly. There will be a day, a middle of the week day, like a Tuesday, where we will take down Teleport, put it into maintenance mode. You won't be able to log in for a second. We're going to do the upgrade. We're going to paint the walls, and then it'll open back up again. So it shouldn't be disruptive. That will have finished the rebuild and full deployment of Teleport V2 and any of the last kind of polishing that we wanted to do. We'll continue to polish a front end and that kind of stuff. But moving into new features, we have cracked a very major new feature for Teleport. And we've been messing around with it for a while, and we couldn't ever really figure out how to do it correctly, but it gelled here in the last few weeks. So we've been working on it. It is going to be really amazing. Like going from nothing to the existence of Teleport, like not being able to outsource printing to being able to upload a file and connect it to your store and have parts auto-fulfilled. That was a giant step. That was a leap forward in how the world functioned. But this next one is equivalently big. Probably even larger because it's going to affect more people. It's going to make it so much easier to create a product than it has ever been before. And everything we've done with Teleport has always been on this mission of like, how do you help a kid in a dorm room create a product? How do you create the infrastructure so that somebody doesn't have to build a factory to build a product? And as we go through it, we're just like, what is the point of friction? What's the giant thing in the way of people selling or creating their product? And we're like, well, we're going to work on that then. And this new feature that we're releasing, that we will be releasing really soon, is a giant step on that democratization. Especially right now in a world where like platforms are locking down more and more. This really breaks people free to do something cool, and it makes it so much easier for normal people. Like Teleport right now is fantastic if you're like a professional seller, but it's kind of intimidating if you're new or exploring. And I think this new feature will really help more people use this stuff. That's all I'm going to talk about it, but it's going to be really neat when it releases. And I know that everybody watching this is going to really like it for a bunch of different reasons. We're going to be really careful with it. We are very generally kind of a shoot from the hip, get an MVP out the door, see if people care. We know people care about this. So this is probably one of the first products where we're going to be kind of hold back-ish and really refine and polish before we release it out there into the world, because there's a very particular kind of product vision that I have for this. So we want it to be just a really awesome experience right at launch and know that it's solid and stable and happy. And so it'll still be MVP. Like, it will still be feature limited, but I think it is going to be that MVP that people just like love right off the bat. It's really cool. It's going to be so cool. Alrighty then. So those are company updates. Moving into questions. If you have a question that you would like to have answered, please comment question : whatever your question is below one of these podcast videos or on Core Channel, and we will pop them up generally. If you do not follow the format question : whatever the question is, then we're not going to see it or we're not going to answer it, whichever one it is. Okay, question from the Thigh Worm? I'm not sure which way direction that goes. Question. Can you sell teleport color samples, or better yet, can you take high quality photos of one set of samples for us to use in our listings, preferably a PNG file? Done. Literally, we've been working on this one too. Like the marketing team has been working on this. You guys, you would not believe how difficult it is to photograph 3D printed parts. All the parts that you see on Instagram are always printed in matte colors, which just photograph really well, so they actually look smoother than they actually are. Inside of Teleport, many of the colors are like glossy, and taking a picture of glossy 3D prints makes them look really bad, even though they don't look like that in real life. But we cracked it. We finally cracked it, literally just very recently, and they look amazing. And those photos are being released. Go over and check out the Slant Pod website, and they will be over there in one of the posts around colors. And yes, we're bringing more resources kind of front and forward from like the FAQ page and around and that kind of stuff. So you can absolutely post them. And they will be photos that you will not feel bad putting in your product listing. Like, they are awesome. They're really sick right now. Like what the team did over there, what the guys did with the photography, it looks amazing. And it moves in a direction that we want. Like, whenever I talk about these things, like these features and these things that we create, we're like, how is this compounding? How can this work for 3 years? How can it allow us to do 1,000 more of these things? And that's what we've got with these photos. Like, there's a lot of fun we can have with it, but it also has this baseline core value to it. So yes, high-res photos of the existing colors are going to be available here already, if not very soon. Go over to the Slant Pod website, look at the most recent blog posts. There'll be some of them in there. Go crazy. We should probably watermark those, now that I say that out loud, just because we can, because like they're really good photos. But you will recognize them. Teleport, kind of one of the mascots that we use, is a duck, a 3D printed duck file, which is just fun because it's sort of silly, but it's also kind of a character that you can move around in the world. And it's really great for showing surface finish because it's a smooth surface. So it just presents quality better. But yeah, the duck is wandering around and the duck looks sweet. Question from Arctica Films 9843. What are your book recommendations for starting entrepreneurs? Oh, thank you. Excellent question. I love this question. If you go to my LinkedIn, or if you Google Gabe Bent's book recommendations or something, I should have a LinkedIn post where I have 7 books. I'm going to look it up because, quite frankly, in this moment, I can't remember all those books. Gabe Bent's book recommendations. Yep, 7 books I always recommend. Here we go. Right at the top of Google search listings. I'm so happy about that. These books have not changed. The first book, The Design of Everyday Things by Don Harmon. This is probably the most informative to how my philosophy on product design has been developed. And he goes through kind of what is intuitive design and how do things in your everyday life make you happy, make you sad, and how you engage with them makes them more useful. He has a follow-on that goes really deep into that emotional stuff, but I think it's called Emotional Design. But that book is fantastic. My second book recommendation is Anti-Fragile by Nicholas Taleb. You may know him from The Black Swan. The Black Swan is useful in general for life philosophy. Anti-Fragile is really good for company philosophy. And it informs kind of my strategy about like, okay, well, how do you build a company that sustains and remains? Well, you make one that is robust, that just can't break, to where chaos makes the company stronger. And Taleb talks about this. The premise is that, okay, if you're fragile, anything can rattle you or break you, right? If you're anti-fragile, anything that goes wrong kind of makes you better. So you thrive in chaos, sort of. But you really thrive in good times. And that is kind of a philosophical mindset that I really liked. Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. Generally, I don't like these kind of books. I don't like the self-aggrandizing bios from I'm a billionaire, I wrote a book with a ghostwriter. I don't like those. But Shoe Dog is good because I'm pretty sure that Phil Knight wrote it himself because it has the correct voice for that and the correct wording for it to where it seems really sincere. But what I love about this book is literally the beginning of Nike, because Nike seems like this unstoppable giant force here, but like Nike had a very roundabout existence where Phil Knight wanted to wholesale purchase shoes from Japan because they were cheap, bring them over here, sell them under his own brand. He got screwed halfway through. They started making their own shoe. They flubbed around with that for 10 or 15 years. Like the ramp up of Nike was really long and slow. And all kinds of congealing of multiple factors made it work. But then how they refined and then got closer to branding and realized what the main theme was. And eventually breaking through into like having Michael Jordan and all the rest of it be brand ambassadors. And they became kind of modern Nike. But Nike for a long time was this futzy little run-in shoe company that was reselling Japanese shoes, the Tiger Nike shoe. But I love the story because there's a sincerity in it. And it's not, by golly, I created the brilliant thing and it was so great. It's very honest in that he wandered around in the desert for a while until he found the thing and then they pushed on it. Against the Odds by James Dyson is a book that I really recommend. This is James Dyson's Dyson Vacuum Cleaners. It's his autobiography. Again, I like it because he wrote it himself. It has his voice, and a ghostwriter can replicate it a little bit, but generally there's ways of speaking that like the person would just use. But I like James Dyson's book because, again, his philosophy on product design is something that I really appreciate. His iteration about how he goes about stuff. He's like, he will very proudly and in every interview say it was 5,183 prototypes to build my first vacuum. And you're like, yeah. I'm not sure how much I believe that because it's kind of a bad engineer to have to go through that many tries, but I'm sure he went through that many iterations and tweaks to it. But I appreciate that story. And again, the slow takeoff. Like Dyson created his vacuum cleaner and then they sold a couple hundred a year or something for 5 years. And then they started to break loose and then they sold it over in Japan. And then they figured out how to finally market it in the UK where they are based. And then they started to kind of become this global phenomenon. And it's just this grind of getting it out the door. The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. Ben Horowitz, Andreessen Horowitz, venture investment company. Ben has written a number of books, all of them are good, around entrepreneurship in this format. And The Hard Things, the other one he wrote is What You Do Is Who You Are, and I feel like he has a third. What is it? Can't remember right now. But The Hard Thing About Hard Things is a little bit, not necessarily his biography, but his story of like starting companies. And they started up, he talks heavily about LoudCloud, which was a company that peaked in the .com era, almost went out of business, and Ben, as the CEO, basically recovered it, turned it into a $10 billion exit or something like that. And they did okay, even though they went from golden child to nothing to back to a useful company. And we're kind of the first ones to do cloud computing. But what he talks about in this one, again, the reality of the misery of creating a company. And like how many times a day you're just going to be punched in the face and all the terrible things going wrong. And it's like, this is what it is. And you keep on going. Building a business when there are no easy answers is the tagline. Yeah. But yeah, Ben Horowitz, I liked it. The thing I said in like my little book review here, Ben pulls no punches, blatantly calling out the stupid in founders and companies and himself, and then taking the extra step to show the solutions, particularly around managing. It's a good read. Yeah, Ben Horowitz's management advice is really, really good. Last book, not generally anticipated, but it's called On Writing Well by William Zinsser. This book, literally just like the first 3 chapters of it is what you should read. Again, really informed like my product design style. He has a statement in here in that you can never get to a period fast enough. And I'm like, that's minimum viable product. Say what you need to say concisely and to the point, and then get over with it. He also talks about how when you are trained to write in high school, your job is to fill out 2 pages rather than to write something good and true and dense and concise. And he's like, there have been more bad writers created by high school English classes than anything else. He is a Princeton English professor or something like that. But it's a very good book around writing well. And when you're writing, you are creating a product. You are designing and communicating and selling your written work in some kind of a way. So, but also writing, I really deeply appreciate. Myself, personally, I'm a very big journaler. I wrote a lot throughout high school and college. Writing is such a fantastic way to get your own thoughts concise and correct. Because for like me, who's an ADD type of person, writing helps you stop and go at the pace that you can write rather than at the chaos of your brain. So you don't get distracted by shiny things. You're on that word and on that thought, and you let it gel. And then when you rewrite the sentence, you make it more precise and more precise and more distilled. And a good writing should be very simple. It should be in your voice. It should be true to you. Like, it's just, all those things are also true of creating a product. So on writing well, I really recommend. That last book I recommend, but it's not a really book. If you want a book just to read, I recommend Seven Eves by Neil Stephenson. It's a fun book. Yeah, so there's my book recommendations. That went longer than I thought. That's practically a discussion topic. How much time do we have? Okay. Going back to questions. Question: how can you design a model to resist material creep under a constant load? Material creep is effectively, if you have a beam sitting right here that's supported, you put a load out here, it bends the beam. Plastic wants to conform to the position that it's in. So creep effectively means that plastic will simply not rebound if you remove the load. So that is effectively what creep was. So in order to minimize creep in an item that has creep, you reinforce it, you buttress it, you create structure so that it cannot deflect, because the deflection is where creep can take place. There's really no other way to ever avoid it. If plastic is under load, it will move to not be under load anymore. You can also pick particular plastics that have low creep. PETG has a lower creep than PLA. PLA has notoriously high creep. Question: will you be adding lunar regolith or some other marble color to teleport? I've been wanting to add a marble color, not lunar regolith again. We had lunar regolith for a bit, like legit basalt lunar regolith right at the launch of teleport, and it cost whatever $100 an ounce or gram or something like that. It was stupid expensive, but we're working on it. We're working on getting more colors in. The problem that we've had, we want to introduce matte colors. The problem that we've had is that the supply of matte colors is very inconsistent and unreliable. And the very last thing that we want to do is introduce colors and then jerk them back in a way to where like people have to update their listings or something or delist colors. We have solutions for that and we're getting them deployed. But like we want to be able to introduce like a color of the month on teleport or whatever it was. Like try this neon green with some of your products and see what happens. Like we want that experimentation, but it has to be an experiment. And if we introduce stuff, people sell on it all, and then we run out of supply or whatever it was and we jerk it back, that's bad for our sellers because they can't build something sustainable around that. So we want to make sure anything we introduce into teleport is reliable, consistent, and always available. And that's kind of what's been slowing down matte colors. Question: if I want to have automatically calculated shipping in Etsy while using teleport, what should I set it to? Shipping will vary based on how far the package has to go and how many items are in the package. So you will never be able to nail down shipping precisely every time. if you're trying to do a flat rate prepaid shipping. Here's a rule of thumb. Anything less than 1 pound costs about $5 to ship. So add $5 to your price, and now you have free shipping baked into the price. Anything over a pound costs about $11 to $12 to ship. Again, general rule of thumb inside the United States, but if it's going down the street, it might cost $2, and if it's going across the country, it might cost $13, that kind of stuff. So there's just a lot of variability in shipping. Have a robust pricing. Here, just general rule for pricing here too. If a 10% change in the cost of your product makes you unprofitable, you have wildly mispriced your product. Your product price should be 3x whatever the manufacturing cost is. Minimum. That's the minimum. That's a baseline. That's a good rule of thumb. But if you don't have that margin in there where you're like, oh, it cost me $10 to make and I sell it for $11, you have the worst business. Don't do that, because a stiff breeze will screw up your whole business model. So don't do that. And yeah, that should help you. Question, have you taken Oreos and dunked them in Dr. Pepper? For people who are new here, I like Dr. Pepper. I like Oreos. I drink Dr. Pepper far more often than I eat Oreos, because Oreos at my age just don't sit as well as they used to. But no, I haven't dunked the two of those because, quite frankly, I'm pretty sure I would die. Like, there's a lot of sugar in Dr. Pepper. There's a lot of sugar in Oreos. But, like, those two things together just seems like a nuclear bomb of diabetes. To where I don't think I can take it anymore. And I can take a bunch. Alrighty here. Yazan M1. Question, would you guys ever consider hiring an engineer? We got a few around. Yeah, we don't have anything against engineers. So long as you're a good engineer. This is the thing. Like, I do not hire based on degree at all. I don't care what the hell you did in your past. I don't care if you came from MIT and been there for 12 years and have a PhD. Don't care. I care only about what have you built before. So if you're self-taught and you built a robot that's sick, great. You are ahead of the guy who has an academic record of straight A's from MIT. Don't care. I am looking for expertise and proof that you can do it. So if you are an engineer, you had better have engineered some stuff that you can show off. Oh, I can't. My company was all secret. Great. So do you not have a hobby? Do you not design stuff in your spare time? Did you not create something in your classes in college? Like, if you have no physical record of stuff that you built that's out there public, then you haven't built anything. You're the guy on the team who everybody else compensated for. So when coming to Slant 3D, many people, this is the fundamental mistake people make when they email us. They say, hey, I'm an engineer. I would like to work for you. Can you get in touch? We can't work with that. Send a portfolio, send us work sample. Give us something, because otherwise you're just another random human, bluntly. This sounds cold, but like, this is really, really important. If you are reaching out to a company, you have to prove your expertise in that message. Link to your LinkedIn, at least, so that we can get to a resume. Attach the resume or attach a link to a photo of your work, a video of your work, something along those lines, or describe what your work was. I was an engineer. I used to work at this company. I'm like, great. What did you do? Are you hiring engineers? Engineers is not a title. There are electrical engineers, mechanical engineers. There are subspecialties inside of those. What did you do? First message. Have that in there. Otherwise, we can't have a Sherlock investigation of you and call you up to find out what you did. That is incumbent upon you to make us interested in the first message, because there's just too much stuff to wade through in order to investigate every person who sends us an email. Okay. Question, have you ever dipped your Oreos in Dr. Pepper? Did that happen twice? Oh, no. It's the same person who asked it twice. Okay. Okay, that should be fine. Alrighty then. Moving on to the next thing. That should keep us happy for a bit. Okay. Discussion topic. PLA is the dumbest material. And there's a couple of notes underneath. This came up in a meeting the other day. I was talking with the guys, and they were asking about PLA. And I said, what is PLA? And they asked, what is PLA? And I was like, PLA is cornstarch that's been turned into plastic. And they were like, well, where's that come from or whatever else it was? I'm like, one company inside the States and one other competing company. And they were like, well, how much of it is made and why is it so expensive? And I'm like, because one company makes it and it makes no material whatsoever compared to the global plastics industry. And they were like, well, PETG, why is PETG so cheap? And I'm like, PETG is so cheap because it's used in every water bottle. So we're running through whatever, 12 tons of it per minute or something like that. Or per hour, I don't know. An absurd amount of PETG is created and turned into disposable water bottles. So it has scale. So it is cheaper than PLA, which has no scale. Because PLA is used for food packaging, for green companies, and for 3D printer filament. And 3D printer filament is the redheaded stepchild in that one because it's supposed to be cheaper and it uses up a ton of material compared to like plastic film, which is used for covering yogurt cups and things. So PLA, guys, like for context, all the filament, all the plastic used by 3D printing, the spools, the filament, whatever is wasted in supports, all of that plastic is probably less. I don't even think it registers on the pie chart. I don't think I can put enough zeros in front of the 0.00001% of plastic that's produced in a year. 3D printing is not even a blip. It's not even a blip. It has no impact on plastic consumption globally at all. I appreciate people who are trying to be efficient with it and not just pile up spools in the back and want to recycle them and that kind of stuff. But the thing is that like the consumptive waste of plastic is way more. Did you buy a styrofoam takeout thing? Did you have a disposable water bottle? Have you unpackaged anything at all? All that stuff, how much plastic does a person generate in a year? How much plastic does a U.S. citizen use in a year? I hope it gives it to me in kilogram. 287 pounds. For the metric people out there, that is approximately 130 kilograms. Approximately 130 kilograms. So in order to use your annual use of plastic, you have to print 130 kilograms. We sell filament to people through Tangled. I know that like the average power user uses like 1 kilogram a month. And then there's the Uber nerds who use more. But like, that's just, this is per the Monterey Bay Aquarium? Okay, fine. It has increased over the last few decades. In 1980s, it was around 60 pounds per person. By 2018, it had risen to 218 pounds. And 7 years on, we're at 287 pounds. So yeah, like your filament is not your primary waste in your life. All of that is to say. So number one, PLA is made from cornstarch. Filament, plastic in general, is not really heavily a big contributor to plastic in general. 3D printing is all super small, so filament is all super small. PLA being cornstarch. PLA is the dumbest material ever. It's not the dumbest material. It was a material that was intentionally created in order to be a sustainable bio-based plastic. Much like ethanol was created to be a sustainable bio-based plastic or bio-based fuel. Here's the problem. They use corn to do this, corn that would otherwise be grown for food, corn that uses an exceptional amount of water, even though it goes back in the atmosphere, so this water argument's always silly. But the amount of energy expended to turn corn into plastic and ethanol and everything else is more than the energy that you get from it. Kind of fundamentally, from like a first principles thing, if you're going to use energy to grow a thing and then turn it into fuel, you're going to get less back. Now, in the early, I'm going to get off on ethanol here. PLA is part of it. PLA is the same thing. But ethanol, when it was created, kind of the selling point was, number one, okay, rather than digging dinosaurs out of the ground, which is unsustainable because we'll eventually run out of dinosaur bones, let's use corn because we can grow more corn, and corn is technically fixing carbon from the atmosphere into its sucrose or whatever coase it is, the sugars of the corn, and it's using sunlight as the energy source. So you are effectively using solar power to create gas, except for the fact that ethanol takes 2 gallons of real gas in order to make 1 gallon of ethanol. Because the refining process and the farming process and everything else around it of running water onto fields and pumping that is so inefficient that it's such a net negative. Not to mention the fact that when you take ethanol and you put it into a car, you make the car less efficient than if it was burning dinosaur juices. Because dinosaur juices are really pure and good. So you burn a dirtier fuel less efficiently, so you use more of this fuel, which needs even more fuel to make it, which is coming from dinosaur juices anyway. So ethanol is dumb and a waste. But here's the thing. Everybody knows ethanol is dumb and a waste right now. But there's no way to get rid of it because ethanol is so deeply embedded now in politics and the farmers growing it and the corporate farms growing it that if you stripped it away, a bunch of people would go broke and get really mad and start hoorahing about it. And it's hilarious that the subsidies for growing ethanol generally go to predominantly conservative types of folks. And this is a wild bit of hypocrisy in kind of farming subculture to where somebody's an uber conservative, but they take government subsidies to grow a dumb crop. And here we are. So 10% ethanol in your fuel at the gas station in order to justify the subsidies that grow these millions of acres of completely useless and stupid and wasteful fuel. And PLA is a byproduct of that refining process. Like literally, gas comes from the refinement of oil and the refinement of so on and so forth. Like all those things are byproducts of distilling oil. When you take corn, you turn it into moonshine and then you distill it, and all the byproducts that come from that distillation can turn into plastic, can turn into gas, ethanol, menthol, all those things. Or not methanol, but not, yeah. Yeah. On the context of PLA, just as a general gripe, I know we use PLA, but we have to because it's a lock-in from the industry. PLA is a dumb material. It has a really low melting point. It has very poor high creep, so it can't be used for long periods of time in dimensioned solutions. And it degrades in light and in UV light. Like, it's not a good plastic. But the benefit is that it's reasonably clean so that VOCs and that kind of stuff that come out of it are low and not dangerous or something compared to like ABS, which 3D printing started with. And it has a really low amount of warp, depending on colorants put inside of it. So as an amorphous type of plastic, it's really useful for 3D printing because it met the need of people who are puttering around to get a prototype part that looks good easily on an open bed slinger machine, which is dumb. I'm so glad. By the way, side note, I'm so glad bed slingers are dead. Bed slingers are dead or dying. Like bamboo came through and now you have the X1 or whatever it was from Prusa and all the rest of them, and everybody's decided that the cube is the correct way to build a printer. I'm like, thank you. So glad it took us 15 years to learn that. But we are finally getting back to cubes, and because cubes are correct. Bed slingers are silly because you have a large mass on a spring-based body waving in the air. It's good for shipping. That's why they exist. Man, I'm on a roll today. I'm just belligerent and crotchety today. PLA is really good because it doesn't warp. And it's stable and it's clean. But it is not a good plastic. The bio-based plastics are a greenwashing artifact. They simply don't work. It's kind of like paper bags. Paper bags are also a greenwashing artifact. The energy used to create a paper bag, which by the way is made from a tree, which means that you just took a bunch of carbon and put it into a format that will either be sequestered in a landfill or will rot and put that carbon back into the atmosphere when it was doing better inside the tree. But the energy of creating a paper bag, I think the energy to create a paper bag is able to create 100 or maybe even 1,000. I don't know. It's a bunch of like plastic bags. And plastic, guys, by the way, everybody hits on plastic. Plastic is a fantastic material. Plastic is an incredible technological boon to mankind. And the good, even the very fact that plastic doesn't degrade or degrades into microplastics, it has a short-term bad side to it here, but a long-term benefit because it can be remined and recollected. When there's going to be an era here, probably in the next 20 years, to where all the landfills that are full of old Chinese plastic crap are going to be dug up. And that plastic's going to be pulled back out and reused, because at that point, recycling will be good enough or large scale enough that it can do that. And plastic can be reused multiple times and refined and burned and used in energy and distilled down in lots of clean ways. So like plastic as a material, of course, very chemically resistant, exceptionally durable, transparent, stupidly low cost. Like that is a unlock. Plastic is a huge unlock for technology and stuff. Like, plastic is so incredible, and it is a wildly fantastic invention that we are so blessed to have access to. Now, there's side effects to it. There are always side effects to this stuff, but many of them are less large than people believe because plastic isn't great. No one likes to see a Walmart bag blowing through the bushes. I grew up in a rural part of the world. There's nothing more irritating than somebody chucking that out of the back of a car or something like that. It's gross. It's terrible. It accumulates in poor nations, all these things. But it's very manageable to go mine it, collect it. Sure, it's going to get stuck in the nose of some turtles, and that's not great. And microplastics in general and us eating them, who knows if it's bad or good, is part of life. We live 80 years longer than humans are supposed to live already. We can have a few things take us down a notch. Where was I going with that? Plastics are amazing. Yes, they are. The side effects to them are going to be short-lived because even the environmental factors of macroplastics and even microplastics, they're not great. But it's not like it's radioactive. It's not a type of, it's not acid or poisons or anything really, really terrible. Like plastic is relatively inert, which is why I'm not terribly worried about, we eat 8 credit cards or whatever the myth is per year. I have no idea what it is, but that's the wrong number. Plastic doesn't really engage with the world much. It can degrade and it can turn into other stuff. But like, it doesn't go away, and that's a problem, but it's not bad. Also, by the way, myth of PLA. PLA, only versions of PLA are compostable in industrial composting sites, which means they hit a certain temperature for a certain amount of time and are maintained in a certain way. You can't bury a PLA part in the back of your yard. And that is an incorrect myth inside of 3D printing also. But anyhow, don't get your knickers in a twist about plastics. It's good to don't chuck them out your window. Don't be an idiot or a jerk or a dick. But they are a solvable problem, a very solvable problem, because they're there. They're in there. You have a fine-tooth net and you catch it all inside of the ocean. It's very manageable. It looks big. It absolutely is big. Like I say, 12 tons of plastic an hour or whatever it was that we all consume in disposable water bottles. That's not great. It's great to have a glass or a steel reusable water bottle. There's no reason to add to it or to be blasé about it and be like, oh, I don't care about plastic. Don't do that. But don't overreact to it. It's not the end of the world. It's very fixable. It's very maintainable, and it's going to get better. Because again, like the best thing that could happen to the world is like we do actually run out of oil, which it also isn't going to happen for a while. But if we did run out of oil, then again, like all the landfills and all the plastic in the ocean and all that kind of stuff would start to become valuable because you refine that back into something that can burn and can create energy and be useful, and you filter out whatever comes off of it, and that's very doable, and go from there. Like we're in a really good spot as a society because number one, we are aware of this stuff, we care about this stuff, we're working to make it better, but we just have to make sure that we don't overreact so that we stop people from being able to interact with it in useful ways and do useful things. Because it's only possible by having rich and successful nations that you can then address these problems at the same time too. So, yeah, all that kind of stuff. I could go in that. Boy, I can't wait to see the comments on this one. But I gave it my best shot. But anyhow, hopefully it was useful to you. The main thing I would like folks to take away, and we could spread this around the world because it is useful to know, ethanol, flippin' stupid. Ethanol, demonstrably a dumb idea, always has been, doesn't work, bygone era with really bad numbers, like just every part of it doesn't work. It doesn't work well in a car, you can't grow it well enough, it's not efficient, it's not cleaner, it burns more, it needs so much energy to produce it, all of it's dumb. And yeah, all that kind of stuff. But is what it is. And it's fine. Life will go on. We're all good. Look at us all right here. We're watching stuff on an iPhone. The computer can talk to us. Most of the people watching this thing had 3 meals today. Like, we live in an incredible world. The problems that we have, most of them are known. They just need to be fixed. And we're in a position where we're able to fix most of them too. So it's good. It's good. Like, calm down, take a chillax pill, look at the sunrise, look at the moon, realize that there are footprints on that, and just be amazed by how awesome the world is. Have a great day, everybody.